uncertain regulation or something similar to that, and then we have the emerging ones which come right after this session. So without any further delay, the moderator of this session, Dan Iliovic, who celebrated his birthday yesterday, who weren't there at the party. Thank you. Take it out.
Hello, hello. Hello. Good afternoon. Or no, good morning. It's still in the morning. Nice to see you all here. I kindly invite our speakers on stage. We have Anna, we have Jasmina, Piotr, and Gabor. And firstly, I would kindly ask each of you to shortly present yourself, the company you're representing, and then we will jump in to the subject, strategic horizons, whatever it means, strategic horizons. Please, Anna.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Anna Wietrzyńska-Ciołkowska. I am a local partner at DWF in Poland.
Jasmina.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm Jasmina. I'm currently with Gamanza, working as a product manager, helping them shaping their product for their plans of expanding to other markets. I also do some consulting in my free time. And I've been around for 17 years.
Thank you.
Piotr Danowski, partner at the Warsaw office of Bird & Bird, heading IP, Tech and Comms media practice, and also a member of International Masters of Gaming Law that we presented yesterday.
Great panel yesterday. Gabor.
Hi, my name is Gabor Helenbai, and I'm counsel in the Budapest office of Taylor Wersing, the international law firm, and I'm engaged in the gaming industry more than 15 years.
Thank you. I met Gabor 10 years ago, first time.
Yes.
And since then, he's working on gambling. What happened? What is happening in Hungary? Is it something changing? Are there good horizons or steady, or some good news do you have on hand? Please.
Both. I have good news and bad news as well. After a long-lasting and steady, very restrictive gambling regime, which did not let the international operators into the Hungarian market. Last year, the law has changed, effective from the 1st of January 2023, which split the market, the online, to two parts. One is the online casino market, and the other is the online betting market. And due to the international push on the government, finally they decided to liberalize only the sports betting market, which means there's no need to have a concession to open a business in Hungary, but only have a license. If you do your homework and comply all with the requirements which is required to have a license, you can get an authorization from the regulatory. This is the good news, but the bad news is that in the past, close to 1.5 years, no new licenses have been released or granted to any international operators. We have no public information on what's happening behind the scenes, whether any of the international operators has been applied to, but it was rejected, or they have not even tried to get a license. So from a practical point of view, the market has not changed. We have only two online casinos which are licensed, and two licensed sports betting website. One is owned by the state gambling organizer, and one is owned by one of the land-based casino operators.
Thank you. At least the seeds are there.
Yes.
And we are looking forward to some changes. I will come back later to you asking about the black market. But I'm passing to Anna. I know you had general elections. Happily, a new government is in force and in chair, and they have, I just discussed with your colleague, they have a lot of work to do. It seems that gambling is not the top agenda, but please give us a short insight of all the news during the last year. What happened in the regulation, what is happening in Poland, and what are the perspectives?
Well, the visible trend is the change approach of the regulator to the loot boxes. In the past, starting from the 2019, there was a famous answer of the Ministry of Finance that loot boxes are not gambling. And relying on that, all the video game producer could freely implement such model in their games and market it on the Polish market. Recently, that is starting from last year, the approach has begun to be changed. First of all, some mechanism close to the loot boxes started to be considered by the regulator as promotional lotteries. And secondly, starting August this year, some of the websites on which the players traded with some skins from video games have begun to be blocked by the regulator as illegal gambling. So it's visible that something has changed. We don't have any official approach. This is just the signs that the approach is changed, but I would expect that there will be more moves in that direction. Of course, all those websites, all those loot box mechanisms were very, very popular in Poland. They were very often advertised by Polish influencers, so the natural consequences of that move is already mentioned by Piotr yesterday, is that we see an exodus of Polish influencers who are changing their tax residence for, let's say, Spain, Gibraltar, for that jurisdiction when they can freely stream online casino games without being exposed to the risk of promoting illegal gambling in Poland.
Thank you. Before going again to Poland with Piotr, Jazz, what do you have something new? I know it's almost nothing, but anyway.
Yeah, I wish I had something new and I live for the day when I will be able to talk about exciting changes in Slovenia. Yeah, currently we're keeping our status quo. No big changes has happened. However, there is maybe a small light at the end of the tunnel.
Like usual.
Sorry?
Like usual.
Yeah,
Yes.
like usual.
We are hoping for the good.
Exactly. Yeah, as you may know, like last year, two bigger betting companies, Entain and Superbet, were trying to acquire Slovenian monopoly, sports betting monopoly, which failed eventually. However, in October last year, Ministry of Finance announced they are planning to review the current strategy. So what they will do, they will appoint an external contractor who will review the current regulation, especially in terms of granting concessions and responsible gambling, with the aim to provide long-term sustainability and international competitiveness as well. However, let's see how this will roll out, and even changing the regulation is not necessarily a good thing, it does not necessarily bring positive changes, as we could see, for example, in the case of Germany. So, yeah, let's see what the future will bring us.
Thank you. I kindly ask you to ask questions for our panelists, because I only have some very few questions. So I rely on your curiosity. Anyway, Jazz, do you have some unofficial explanation why the tendering of for acquisition of the Slovenian gambling company failed?
I don't really, but I mean, there were also
Your guess, just your guess.
I mean, obviously there are some strong groups who has interest to keep the monopoly, and that would be my opinion. But there
Okay.
were no reason publicly given, even from the companies that tried to acquire, so I guess that speaks for itself as well.
Thank you. Piotr?
Yes, so as Anna already said, there are maybe not much changes in Poland from the legal perspective, but I would say in the last 2-3 years we had quite a lot of change on the Polish market. For example, Poland becoming much more, let's say, international in terms of operators. So we have BetClick already for a few years, Betway joined, Entain made the acquisition of STS, being the largest licensed betting operator in Poland. So Superbet is pushing very much. So it seems that the international companies are starting now to play a bigger role in Poland, whereas for many, many years we didn't have much of international players on the Polish market. Of course, we always had, I mean, not always, but for many, many years we had Fortuna, which obviously is a superpower here in the Czech Republic and a regional player, but majority of the operators were purely Polish operations. So I think in the longer term it will change the market because these are much bigger companies with much bigger resources, much bigger experience and so on and so forth, and very strong brands, much bigger money to invest in sponsorships and so on. So I think some of the local Polish operators, especially those small ones which have very tiny share of the market and always had very tiny share of the market, might be in quite big trouble with that, but of course we'll see. And the second thing which you can see in Poland in the last few years is extreme growth in popularity and flourishing of live dealer studio businesses, which seem to be outside the gambling regulation in Poland, because it's not exactly conducting the games, it's filming something which looks like conducting the game, but of course you don't accept any bets or whatsoever, or wages, and you don't, of course, decide any results. It's just an audio-visual content. So there are a lot of businesses like this flourishing now in Poland. A lot of them actually coming from the Baltic republics. To some extent, I would say the war in Ukraine also speeded up the process, because many companies like this, which were existing in Ukraine, moved to Poland. They also like to employ Ukrainians for the actors, let's say, for the content. And the same applies in general to IT companies. Poland was always very, and is very strong in IT in general, not just in gambling. So there are a lot of software providers, global software providers, who have their studios in Poland, even though they don't really offer their products ultimately in Poland. But there's more of them coming, and also a lot of Belarusian and Ukrainian companies which were producing games, also gambling products, again because of the war in Ukraine, moved to Poland, relocated to Poland. So you can also see much more activity in this regard.
Thank you. I have to say I admire Poland. It's an economic boom. It's I think it's one of the strongest economies in Europe now, in EU, and it's well above, for example, Romania and Hungary. Thank you. Gabor, is there a black market? Does somebody care about the black market in Hungary? What about the slot machines?
Yeah, so let's split the question into two parts, the online and the offline gambling. The situation in the offline gambling, it's pretty much simple, because you can only operate slot machines in dedicated casinos with a concession, and we only have 11 casinos throughout the country, and the local authorities are investigating very seriously illegal offline gambling activities. So in this sense, we cannot talk about black market. But regarding the online market, there is a very tricky situation, because I mentioned that last year we changed the law, and now theoretically it is possible to open online sports betting in Hungary, but before the 1st of January of 2023, the registration was so restrictive that the Court of the European Union made a decision about the Hungarian legislation that is against the EU law, which resulted in that the Hungarian authorities could not reach out to international operators who were operating on the Hungarian market, and it was a very convenient situation for all operators who had registered seat and license within the EU. It was very convenient because they could operate in Hungary, but they didn't have to pay tax in Hungary, and they weren't overseen by the Hungarian authority. Since last year, the situation is very tricky, because the regulation in terms of online casinos remain the same. So from a legal point of view, still against the EU regulation, but the regulation regarding online casinos has been changed, which is now, at least now, it's currently not against the EU law. So an international operator who has service offer both online casino games and online betting on the same website, it's very tricky how to judge this situation. So you are half illegal or half legal. I think we will see legal debates about this situation. What I know is that I have received quite a lot inquiry about international operators, because they would like to enter the Hungarian market, but they just don't know how to handle this very, very tricky legal situation. So I think this would be one of the most important questions in the future from the regulatory perspective.
Thank you. Regarding the operator, where the operators are established and how they operate in Poland, is there a requirement regarding to have them a permanent establishment in Poland, or just a representative? In Romania, they just changed the regulation, but I think we will discuss in the next panel. It's now mandatory for the operators to have a permanent establishment in Romania. But what is the case in Poland now?
The purpose of the biggest amendment to our law that was adopted in 2016 and effective in 2017, when all those provisions related to the blacklisting, IP blocking, payment blocking came into the force, was to allow in Poland to run the business without the necessity to have a permanent establishment. So there were introduced three options. Yeah, first is just to have a Polish subsidiary. Second, have a Polish branch. And the third one, just to operate from another country, EU country, EFTA country, having a representative appointed in Poland. But there is one tricky provision in our Gambling Act, which says that this representative has to have a power of attorney, allowing him or her to sign contracts in the name of the operator. And during the works on these amendments, we highlighted that this will be potentially the problem, because this is one of the criteria for having a permanent establishment. And lately, we have some judgment from our administrative courts which said yes. having a representative office, representative in Poland appointed with such a power of attorney means that you have a permanent establishment. So again, it's open the question whether our regulation is in line with the European law, as in practice there is no option to operate in Poland without the necessity of having a permanent establishment.
I see. Thank you. Jazz, the national operator, the monopoly, do they care about, I'm a little bit switching to responsible gambling, which is my favorite topic. Do they care about players? Do they have some self-regulation, some code of conduct? Being alone, I think it's not a problem for them to either to have nothing or to put in some provisions in order to at least to look like they care about the customers.
Yeah, we do have, in the regulation it is required, we do have like a national self-exclusion base that is applied for land-based as well as...
Who's managing this list?
I think it's governmental, the Ministry of Finance. But yeah, regulation is pretty outdated and it's not really adjusted to the digital reality. So apart from self-exclusion, there are really no big requirements, and of course they don't imply.
Advertisement, it goes everywhere, every time.
Yeah, more or less.
Piotr, what about Poland?
Well, in Poland, it unfortunately doesn't look terribly good in the sense that there's not much really on a statutory level. Of course, we have provisions in the gambling regulation in Poland which oblige every operator to have a responsible gaming regulation in place, and the laws provide what more or less needs to be there, but it's fairly basic, and yes, everyone has it, but it's more a matter of ticking the box of having the document, not so much of verifying the actual compliance or being proactive. There is unfortunately no nationwide self-exclusion scheme, either governmental or self-regulatory.
It's only on operator level.
Yes, some operators introduce that kind of measures voluntarily for their customers, but it's their own initiative. It's not coordinating. They are not really exchanging the data.
If it's not global, it's not effective. You can quickly move to another operator. If you change your mind and want to play...
Yes, so there are still cases in Poland. I even heard cases about a guy who was playing in brick-and-mortar casino actually belonging to the same operator. And he self-excluded himself in one of those casinos and went 5 streets further to the second casino of theirs and had no problem of playing again. So it shows that, yes, there is a lot to be done in that regard. A bit of a problem in Poland is, or maybe was, that unfortunately as regards the industry was a little bit divided. So we have 2 industry associations in Poland, with the first one, original one, which was always more supposed to represent the big guys on the Polish market, meaning primary STS and Fortuna interests, and the second one, which was kind of set up in opposition to the other guys by the smaller operators who wanted to have their interests as well somehow voiced. Now with all those, let's say, international developments, Entain acquiring STS and so on, that might change. And I think for the industry it would be good if it would change, because in Poland we don't have a truly proper gambling regulator, so we don't have like a separate entity. It's just a department in the Ministry of Finance. They are not very easy to talk to. They don't have a style of consulting the things or anything. So unless the industry will have a single voice and really push at least certain, I mean, there will always be differences of interest between operators, that's normal. But I'm pretty sure there are quite a big number of issues like, yeah, switching to GGR taxation and whatnot, which are shared definitely by our operators, whether they are tiny, big, international, local, or whatsoever. So unless they will be able to speak with a single voice and push their agenda as a single block, rather than once those guys are coming and trying to push for their things, then they leave, and then other guys come and speak a little bit different story, then not much will change. And I don't think gambling in general is a type of a matter that the governments want to deal with very much voluntarily. So unless they are pushed by the industry, and unless the industry has the initiative of showing that certain changes should take place because they will benefit everyone, I mean, by everyone, I mean industry and the state, I don't think the governments are, most of the countries, too much interested to touch the subject, because for them status quo, unless it goes out of hand and you need to react to burning fires, the status quo is the best you can have, because you know it, you don't have to do anything, you do it the old way, and Department of Gaming in Poland is a tiny thing, it's basically 2 people, so obviously their capacity is quite limited to do certain stuff, so for them to keep going as usual is of course the easiest way.
The minimum resistance way. But hopefully having those big operators will bring some expertise and some experience from other markets in order to prevent tough regulation, which might be the case if things go out of control. Questions from the audience?
I would add to that
Yes,
not
please,
necessarily,
Anna.
because the truth is that we've got over 20 operators, but only a couple of them, the biggest one, are making any profit. They are just noticing losses. So in the interest of the biggest one, is not necessarily change the rules, because they've got the scale to have profit, even if such very hard conditions. So I'm not so sure whether they will push for the change, which will make smaller players or newcomers more profitable or more eager to share the market that is currently in their hands.
I see. Thank you. Gabor, what about advertisement in gambling advertising in Hungary? Is it, are there any restrictions? Is it freely available? What about the sponsorship system? Is it allowed? Please.
Yeah, that's a very good question because the authority thinks that one of the way to restrict the operation of non-licensed operator is a ban on advertisement in Hungary, which pretty works well, I think. So you cannot really see TV commercials or internet banners or something like that on Hungarian websites. But as you mentioned, it's more and more often comes up the sponsoring thing, because if you read the wording of the law, no sponsoring would be allowed by non-licensed operators, though we have pretty much international sport events like Formula One, the handball matches, football matches.
Live events.
Yes.
Live events.
Yes, and of course there you can see sponsors coming from the gaming industry. But taking into, at least my opinion or suspicion is that taking into account that these international events are really, really important for Hungary, they just the authority just doesn't really care about this sponsorship and look in the other direction when they could see any sponsor who are not licensed in Hungary.
They don't care.
Yeah, so to say. So it's also a very tricky question from a practical point of view, but good for the lawyers, because I'm constantly receiving questions for operators that whether we can do this and that, whether we can sponsor this and that event. So but it's not easy to answer, say yes or no.
Yes, thank you. Jazz, do you have something to add? It's a quite pessimistic image of your industry in your country. What do you consider it would be, let's say, a bold move? What could happen? Change in the government, change in the politics, or maybe, let's say, an invasion of unlicensed online operators' offers on your websites. What could be the trigger in order to move forward with the proper regulation in your country?
I mean, changing the government and the politicians, been there, done that, and it didn't work. I mean, I guess it will change a couple of generations to change the mindset. Also, like, since we are very strong in the land-based, long term, this is probably not sustainable, as the younger generation will probably not visit the land-based casinos. So I guess eventually we will be forced to do some changes and adjust. So hopefully the revision and the new regulation will already bring some positive changes to that. And yeah, until then, I think the black market will flourish also in Slovenia, unfortunately. And all the taxes that could be collected will bypass us.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes.
This is without any player protection, without any control, and that's I think the worst case.
Yeah.
Thank you. Questions from the audience, please. It's free. Yeah, please.
A question for Gabor. I remember reading that when the new regulations were passed in Hungary, there was restrictions on people applying for licenses if they had been active in the kind of grey black market before. Is that still there? Is that still a problem?
Yeah, I mean, it's still in the law that you can apply if you had a court judgment or authority resolution from the EU, anywhere from the EU, that you were engaged in illegal gambling operations. But so far it has not been tested because nobody, at least to my knowledge, nobody applied for a license. So, but the answer to your question is yes, it's still applicable.
Thank you. Another question, please, from the audience. Piotr, what is the appetence of Polish people for gambling? It's compared to other jurisdictions. I'm not talking about UK, but in your personal opinion, just a guess, just a...
Well, I think it's growing in popularity, especially the sports betting, because traditionally national lottery was the key thing in Poland in the old days, but you didn't have much other options than that for many years. Okay, we have horse racing betting in Poland, but not too many horse racing tracks, and it's not the same as in UK where you go in your nice hats and so on to those horse races, which are sometimes more a social event than actually about betting or anything like that. Casinos are there, but I would say the brick and mortar casinos are not that terribly popular in Poland. First of all, because there are not that many of them. There are only 27 casinos in the whole country. Most of them being adjusted to the hotels or resorts. And because you have certain dress codes, you need to go there. Most of the casinos have certain minimum threshold of money you need to change into tokens to play and so on. So I don't think it's very popular. And online, we have only one licensed online casino in Poland operated by the state monopoly, which for quite a long time, I haven't been there recently, but for a long time, let's say, wasn't the most attractive online casino in the world. There are better online casino websites than this one. Well, there was a period where slot machines were extremely popular, but that was before they were seriously regulated. So it was the time when you had slot machines all over the country. Basically, every 50 meters you had a slot machine, you had a bar, you had a slot machine, and so on. But that's actually what started the huge reform of the Polish gambling regulations back in 2009, and kind of a serious crack on that, because it all started with a huge corruption scandal, actually including high officials of the Ministry of Finance and the mafias and so on who were operating those slot machines, because probably about 90% of them at that time were completely unregistered, untested, and located in very weird locations. So that's probably one element of combating illegal gambling, which Poland was really successful with, both on the statutory level, but also really going after cracking and finding those machines. I'm not saying it's still not existing, because these days...
Do you have a number, an approximate number, how many slot machines were there by that time?
I don't remember, but it must have been like hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And now you can have slot machines as a private operator only if you have a casino license for a brick and mortar casino, and only the state monopoly can have slot machine parlors. But of course, you know, technology went further, so there are various tricks, and still you can hear from time to time about the stories that there is a shop which looks like a smartphone and tablets store, and you have those tablets on display, you know, to check whether you like the functionalities, the display, and so on. And in fact, they have apps installed for actually slot machine gambling. And when the control comes, then of course they plug the electricity off so that it still looks.
They used to do the same. They used to do the same in Romania.
But I think still these days it's probably not as major problem as it used to be in the older days. And then sports betting, I think, is growing, especially with the younger population, especially with all those operators who are offering bets not only on traditional sports, but all the e-sporting events. In Poland, in Katowice, every year we have the largest e-sporting championships in the world, in Spodek, which is a couple of thousand people coming every year, and it's huge with all those teams competing there. So I think a lot of youngsters are into that. Plus, quite honestly, a lot of Polish operators really invested a lot of effort, money, and thought into their, let's say, customer-facing products. So it's not just about the websites, but apps. What made a success for many of the operators in Poland was by developing very nice, very user-friendly apps. So you don't even have to log into, you don't need the computer, you don't need to log into the actual website. You have an app on your phone and you can bet from your phone. And then of course the whole program of bonuses, blah, 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 which of course makes it more appealing. So I would say, yeah, sports betting is probably now on the highest curve. Online casino is one license. Online casino, I don't think it will terribly grow. And when you look at the results of the state-owned online casino, I mean, it's growing, but not terribly a lot. I think the monopoly was expecting more from that. The slot machine parlors operated by the monopoly are also not growing in number as much as they thought probably. It's also because they have to do all the tenders for the machines and so on, which takes a lot of time just to get the equipment actually to put it in there. Plus they try to diversify the suppliers, not to take from one supplier and so on. And the national lottery is basically for many years now going down. So if not for the Euro jackpot, which still probably keeps some people playing that sort of stuff, it probably would be even extincted by now. Because people don't really, it's not like Southern Europe. It always fascinates me when I go to Italy or Spain that you still have those guys with a chair in front of the supermarkets selling the scratch cards or that sort of stuff, because I don't think it even exists in Poland anymore, like scratch cards, or I haven't seen them for ages. And even those lotto points, which used to be very popular, there are very few of those now.
It's very interesting because I see the opposite direction in Hungary, because scratch cards are extremely popular now. after the slot machine industry was killed, and you cannot reach any slot machine in each and every corner in Hungary, but only in dedicated casinos, which we have 11 throughout the country. So people don't have the opportunity to gamble. So that's why they go to the betting shops of the National Lottery, where you can have instant gambling experience. One of these is the scratch card, and the other one is this special lottery, which there's a drawing in every 5 minutes. So it's a kind of instant type of gamblings, and these two types of gambling are skyrocketing in Hungary. So that's an interesting.
Well, as I said, in Poland you have fairly extensive offer of sports betting, so probably scratch cards compared to that are not that so interesting, especially that you have some younger people setting those leagues together of typers and different rankings and so on. More entertaining than scratching a card, I think, in the long run.
Thank you. The final questions from the audience. Yes, please.
Hello, I want to ask you about risk game. How, in your opinion, it is a responsible game, a risk game, gamble game, how we want to multiply win of to player, some gamble game. You know what is risk game in a land-based machine, for example, which the player can multiply his win or lose all. How you think it is responsible or not? No, for example. Yes, double risk game.
So if there is a winning, instead of taking out the money, you can play on double the winning or lose everything. And is the perspective of responsible gambling, if you consider it as a responsible or non-responsible gambling practice. If you would ask me, I would consider that it's part of the game. It's a little bit more risky, for sure, but I think I personally experienced this, and it's getting up the adrenaline. So sometimes it depends on the player. So but if you would like to add your opinion, oh, okay. This is.
Maybe I would add that from time to time there are some operators in Poland who would like to introduce some tools based on the machine learning just to monitor the behavior of the player. So in such a case, it would be more likely the red flag. But there are some challenges with such mechanisms currently, because this is the profiling of the players to deny the service.
In Czech legislative it is banned, and in other countries it's okay.
We don't have a regulation that applies to such a situation. But of course, it would depend on the behavior of the player, on the pattern, what is the result, whether after losing, let's say, this double stake, there will be the next investment, buying of next chips to play again or not.
Thank you. Very good question. Thank you. I think we have to wrap up. Zoltan, yes? Thank you very much to you. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for our distinguished panelists, Gabor, Anna, Jazz, and Piotr. Thank you.